think about how my life is pretty easy these days, and it hasn't always been that way. There were times when life was actually pretty hard, and now I've kind of laid a lot of those things to rest. I don't spend my time being worried about things generally. I don't feel like I have no time. I don't feel like I'm overextended. I don't worry about things like debts or paying bills, or feel like I am gonna be in trouble in life if I lose my job, or think that I have to work crazy long hours in order to keep the lights on, or anything like that. And all of this stuff in my past, there were times when I went through all of that, and life was hard. It was in many ways because of poor choices that I had made ultimately, and I didn't really realize that. I didn't see it that way at the time, but my life wasn't very well managed, and then mistakes that I had made further in the past continued to sort of haunt me. And there's a lot of cases in life where it's like that. If you make bad decisions, then you can make good decisions, and it's not really going to make a difference initially, because you're paying for the consequences of previous bad decisions that you made. So one good decision doesn't offset the bad decisions that you already stacked up. Like you have a debuff on your character, right? Like you've got something that's just holding you back, and it doesn't matter how much you try to do the right thing, it's gonna keep on haunting you no matter what you do. And it's, you know, it's like a stock. It's like a stock that is going down, and no matter what the news is, the perception is that this company is not going in the right direction. This company is failing. So even if there's good news, investor perception is that the stock is failing. And it'll stay that way for a period of time until enough good news stacks up to offset the perception of negativity. Then at some point, that trend will reverse. And then suddenly, like magic, people are going to look at that stock and say, oh wow, they're actually going in the right direction. Then as soon as it's that way, then you have a boon to their success. Because when the perception is that that company's going in the right direction, then even if there's some bad news along the way, people feel like they have confidence to invest in that enterprise. And it's the same basic thing when we make bad decisions in life. You start off making bad decisions, they stack up, and they keep on negatively affecting you for a long time. And then you have to make good decisions for a while, and initially it doesn't feel like those pay off. But at some point they start to stack up, and then when you get around that curve, it gets suddenly easier. Because now, even if you occasionally do something that's not perfect, you have the momentum of a positive trend behind you. But to move on from this, life should be something which is actually easy most of the time. We should struggle because sometimes life involves struggle. Sometimes we need to fight. Sometimes life is hard. Sometimes it's because of our personal mistakes. Sometimes it's just because that's the hand that life deals us. But no struggle should last forever, because we should learn from our mistakes and stop making them. We should sometimes be able to avoid problems on the front side entirely, so that problems don't even manifest themselves at all. Imagine if you're driving down the road, you go from one place to another. It's uneventful. You arrive safely. Somebody else is on their cell phone and they're not paying attention, and they get into a car accident. Well, the person who got in a car accident now has a lot of other things going on that are negative. Maybe they are in trouble at work because they weren't there on time. Maybe they're not able to be punctual in the future because now they don't have reliable transportation. Maybe they have extra debt or something of that nature because they had to go into debt to cover the deductible for their car repair bill. The list could go on. And it's a lot of trouble. It's a lot of problems trying to get your car fixed, trying to talk to the insurance company, trying to figure out how you're going to get a rental car and get to work, and the list goes on. Meanwhile, there's you, and you didn't get on your cell phone while you were driving. You went to work. You had an uneventful day and you came home. No car accident, no trouble, no complexity to navigate. You just had an uneventful day. Well, let's say that the person who gets into the car accident, they do manage through that entire situation very well. They react to it promptly. They give it a sense of urgency. They talk to all the right people. They work it out. They come out on the other side. They're okay. But it doesn't change the fact that the problem that they're facing is a problem that was of their own creation. You see, they didn't have to do any of those things that they were doing. They didn't have to deal with any of the problems that they addressed. All they needed to do was not make the screw up that put them in that situation. And in life, what I find is there's a lot of people who will appear to be very busy. They'll appear to be chasing success. They'll appear to be working through things and navigating a lot of complexity. And then they will act as if, because they are busy, everyone should be busy. It's like the person who works 85 hours a week at work, the workaholic, and they brag about it because working long hours makes them feel like they have proof that they have a badge of honor, that they are sacrificing more than anyone else for that company. But the reality is, if you really take a step back, you'll find it's not so much that they're doing such a good job. It's probably more that they can't manage their time, and they've put themselves in a position where they and others don't respect their boundaries. So maybe it'd be totally possible to work 40 or 45 hours a week. But you work 85 because you can't manage your time, and then you expect everyone ought to be doing that as well. And then you have a negative culture going on, because people start to feel like the gauge, the barometer of success in life is not your accomplishments. It's not if you are meeting your needs. It's not if the duties are performed. But rather, it's how much did you sacrifice? How much did you suffer? How long did you grind? To loop in gaming to this, think about somebody who's grinding for some sort of a max gear score in an MMO. But let's just say that hypothetical game doesn't have any ceiling. It doesn't have any skill cap. So you can keep on going to infinity, continuing to get a little bit stronger, a little bit more powerful. You can keep on increasing your combat power. And so you just grind. You put thousands of hours into that game. You never stop playing the game. You live it, you breathe it, and you start to have this attitude that everyone needs to be doing the same basic thing. And if somebody doesn't have 6,000 hours in the game, then they are not a real gamer, right? Well, then compare that person to the casual. You got the casual who just logs in, enjoys random content, doesn't really have any high expectations, doesn't have any disappointments either, just has a pretty good time. Imagine the difference. The crazy thing is the casual is going to have a good experience, while the hardcore player is going to be miserable all the time, because the hardcore player keeps on playing long after it stops being enjoyable, stops being fun, stops feeling like a game at all. They're still playing, trying to make it one level further. Who really is winning in the end? And the reality is, the person who is really obsessed with grinding for the sake of grinding is going to have a more negative experience than the player who's playing for the sake of just enjoying their experience. It's just like a child that goes to the park or to the nature trail, and they aren't really trying to prove anything to themselves or anyone else. They just want to be outside. That is the goal. That is the entirety of the game they're playing. That's all it is. They just want to go outside and play. But then the adult would go to the same place and start making it into a competition. It's like a friend of mine. He's competitive. He is that way in life, always trying to do something new, always trying to ask what's next, always filling up his schedule with something. He's always busy. He's always grinding for the next achievement in life. That's how he is. He likes to play chess. I don't like to play chess with him because I don't play very well and I don't play very often, and I play like a casual. And I found it really does not feel enjoyable or fun to sit down to play a casual game of chess with somebody who's going to go hardcore into it and then beat you and rub your face in it. I just don't really need that. If you're going to be a super aggressive competitive player, then we can just avoid the entire thing and not play chess together, because you have to win and you are obsessed with flexing on people, and I don't really enjoy that. But we went into this mall and there's a game store in there, and these guys said, well, like Thursday is chess day. So he was thinking about that, and then we happened to be going back by there one of these times, and so he popped in to see about this. Walks in, and it's a couple old guys just sitting around playing chess, and he took a look at it and he just walked out and he was disgusted, because he was saying, that's not a chess competition. I thought it was going to be a competition. And the people at the game store said, oh, it's not really a competition. It's just people playing. And he's like, well, why would I play if it's not a competition? Right? So that's kind of how it is, right? He's not playing because he enjoys chess. He's playing because he wants to get the thrill of rubbing someone's face in defeat. And if he can't do that, and it's just a friendly game, well, he doesn't care about that. He doesn't want a friendly game. He wants a competition that will give him the opportunity to flex on somebody. And that's kind of like the definition of a toxic player. But in life, society is filled with them. There's so many examples of people who live their life always signing up for some sort of a battle, some sort of a PvP challenge, some sort of a struggle. And they don't want their life to be easy. They don't want their life to be peaceful. They want it to be a never-ending grind trying to achieve something that can't really be achieved. Or they're always getting themselves in trouble because they never learn from their previous mistakes. And so their life winds up being a nonstop train of tragedy because they're always making the same mistakes over and over again, and they never actually get any positive momentum to overcome the hurdle and stop being in a cycle of defeat. Ultimately, it doesn't really make a difference which one it is, because there's both kinds in the world. There's people who are always struggling because they never learn from their past mistakes. And there's people who are just addicted to the grind so much that they both cannot enjoy the casual game, and they look down on people who do enjoy life just for the sake of it. But the truth is, life is something which can be lived easily, peacefully, calmly, pleasantly. You don't have to live your life in a state of constant struggle. Yes, there will sometimes be challenges. Yes, there will sometimes be struggles. But they should be the exception to the rule. It shouldn't be that your entire life from end to end is a non-stop competition or a non-stop disaster. And if you do get to the other side, you do settle old scores, you do get past the problems that have haunted you in the past, and then you just enjoy your life. Like, I don't have a very complicated life. The truth of the matter is, if I want to just sit there and play games on the computer all weekend, then that's what I do. My goals in life are pretty small, pretty simple, pretty achievable. I just want to spend my time doing things that I think are interesting. Maybe I'd like to write a book sometime. Like, those are the kinds of things I think about. As long as I can meet my needs, I'm not super worried about what I'm doing or how I'm doing it. I just want to enjoy my life. And there are people that are more competitive than me. There are people who are, by many measures, more successful than me. I really don't care. I just want to enjoy my life. And I do enjoy my life. Relationships, experiences, being able to think for myself and be free, those things matter a lot more than career progression or anything like that. As for problems, I figured them out, solved them, moved on. I don't rack up credit card debt. Keep the credit cards paid off. Save extra money, so I don't have to worry about that. Live a simple life, so my cost of living is low. Like, these are just things, and they weren't easy. They weren't easy when I was not doing those things for a long time. But now they kind of are easy because I've already figured those things out. And there's a lot of things in life. You figure it out. You don't have to cross the bridge over and over and over again. You just get there, and then that part of your life is good. And then you can move on to focus on other things. Kind of like if you did a playthrough of Skyrim, okay. Do you have to go back through and play it again and again and again to be a fan of the game? Or is it possible that you could just say, I played that game from beginning to end, and now I'm good. I don't have to play it again. Like, I've watched all the episodes of most of the Star Trek series. I don't have to watch it again because I watched it once, and once was enough for me to be a fan of the franchise. I don't have to watch the original series over and over again and keep on watching it on a rerun loop in order to be a fan of Star Trek. And there's a lot of people who think that life has to be a struggle. It has to be a loop that you just keep on repeating and grinding perpetually without end. And then they brag about it, just like the person who works super long hours at work, never disconnects, and then acts like they're a victim. Well, you're not really a victim because you did it to yourself. Or if you can't quit your job because you have gotten buried in debt, or you've allowed your cost of living to increase along with your increases in salary, and then you've got to the point where you're overextended, well, you did that to yourself. There's so many things people do to themselves. I don't really care if somebody wants to go out and they want to buy a $1 million house and have several nice cars and have all of the payments and the responsibilities and the duties that go along with that. Well, okay. You're going to have to deal with it. That's just how it is. But you can't act like you somehow are more important because you have more things that you're struggling with. Because most of those are just things that you're doing to pad your own ego. Just like a person who's grinding to have a higher gear score in an MMO. Does it really matter? It really doesn't. All you're doing is trying to make you feel better about yourself. And then you look at other players and you say, well, you know, how dare you say that you're a fan of the game because all you are is a casual. Okay, well, isn't the game itself supposed to be casual? That's the whole point of it. You know, it's like I think about how in ESO people will complain about how the developers don't really care too much about what the PvP players want. And the reason why they don't do that, the reason why most of the focus on MMO content in general winds up being PvE content, is because the truth of the matter is that most gamers are casuals. Most of them just want to log in, enjoy the game, and then log out. Most of them are not interested in taking the game and making it a full-time career. And that's why things like PvP wind up taking a back seat to PvE content. The content that appeals to the average player is more profitable than content which appeals to a minority niche of players who are extremely hardcore and think everyone should play the game the way they do. But that's how life is. You have a few people who are extremely hardcore and they think everybody ought to be like that. And then there's other people who just don't ever learn. Like, they don't ever learn any of the mechanics of the game, and then they wonder why they struggle. You know? It's like if you can defeat any overland mobs in ESO super easy because it's a level scaled world. But then imagine if you go to those few world bosses that need to be group content, and instead of doing them as group content, you try to solo them. And then you struggle. And then you're mad because that's too hard. Well, you know, or you go to Cyrodiil and you want to go do PvP, but you don't know how the mechanics work because you never learned them. Well, that's kind of on you. You don't have to go do PvP if you don't want to. If you do want to, then you got to figure it out. If you don't, then do what I do and just keep on killing mobs in the overland. That's fine too. What isn't fine, though, is to take the way you play for better or worse, and then project that onto other people and act like they need to have the same type of experience that you're having. Or if you ultimately have a pretty good experience, to let somebody come along and tell you that you can't enjoy the game because you're not doing what they want you to do. That's one reason why I don't like playing Albion Online anymore, because I tend to do PvE stuff. I don't really want to do hardcore full loot PvP. It's just not a fun experience to me to be engaging with other players in a toxic competitive way like that. It sounds cool until you do it, and then at some point you just get tired of it and you think, this is not really my cup of tea. But in that particular game, the hardcore players will pick on other people who don't want to play the game the way they do. They'll say, if you aren't playing it the way they do, you're playing the game wrong. Well, that's not really for them to say. Like, you should play the game how you want to play it. And sometimes, if people aren't respectful of that, you should just go play a different game. Because surrounding yourself with people who can never get ahead in life because enough is never enough, who expect that you should also have that same attitude, those aren't the kind of people who you're going to be uplifted by. Surround yourself with players who actually support your playstyle. People who want to have a peaceful, happy, joyful experience and share that with other people. But don't look at the fact that other people are struggling and assume that just because other people are struggling, you should be struggling too. Because the truth of the matter is, a lot of trouble in life can be avoided if you just learn from your mistakes, don't keep repeating them, and simplify your life so that the things that you're trying to do are all things that you actually want to do. Not things that other people say that you should be doing. Not things that you are doing because you're trying to compare or measure up. Just enjoy your life. Meet your daily needs. Do your duties. And allow your life to be a simple one. If you do that, you'll find you probably don't need as much to be fulfilled as other people will tell you. You don't need as much as you thought. And life can be easy and simple. It doesn't have to be hard and arduous all the time. When you realize that, when you start focusing on your experience instead of looking around at what everyone else is doing and trying to stay in the rat race just because you want to fit in, then suddenly life gets pretty easy. And then other people, they'll come along and they'll say, well, you know, maybe you're lazy because you're not struggling, or you're entitled because you're not struggling. And that's not really fair, because quite often I think the reason I don't struggle is because I keep my life simple and I don't make the kind of mistakes that wind up putting me in bad situations that I could have avoided. So don't ever feel like you have to apologize for having a simple, easy, peaceful life. Don't feel like you have to grind harder than you want to just because there are people who are obsessed with the grind so much that they don't want to enjoy the experience along the way. Always enjoy your life, because the truth is there's a lot of people out there who are saying they're going to eventually retire and go take up a hobby or something when they're 65, you know? Okay, that's fine. But really, you're gonna wait? You're gonna wait until you're retired before you get around to reading a book because you're too busy for that? Well, maybe you should simplify your life so that you can have some quality of life for the entire duration of your life, instead of crossing your fingers and hoping that maybe one day in the far distant future you'll be able to find peace. When really, it's just a matter of mindset. Peace is just about realizing that that's what you want in life. And once you realize that you're done living a life of struggle and you prioritize an attitude of harmony in your life, you let go of a lot of things. And usually when you let go of things, your burdens get lighter. And then other people will pop up and they'll tell you, well, why are you not carrying any heavy burdens? And it's important in those moments to remember, it's not because there's something wrong with you. It's just because you let go of all of the things that held you down. Wherever you find yourself on your adventure, good luck. Try not to travel too heavy, and always try to have fun. Till next time, thanks for watching.